So it's been a while since I made a video. I hope there's at least one or two people out there still watching, but a lot of stuff has happened since I've last made a video. There was an insurrection in DC at the Capitol building, and Crystal Kyle made a show called Crystal Kyle and Friends.
The egg and the sperm come together, and this extraordinary process
Very
of
hot.
cell
Continue.
regeneration begins to occur.
And I hit 19 subscribers.
Very hot. Continue.
So I want to make many more important videos in the future that actually dive into politics. I don't think this really, this just public opinion on this doesn't sway anybody. It's not even really that important. But this AOC saying that someone barged into the bathroom saying, "Where is she?" looking for her, and that she felt like her life was in danger. And she tweeted at Ted Cruz, "You almost got me murdered." I just want to cover the left aspect of it, the far lefter aspect of it, because of course there's people in the middle who think, yeah, she kind of fabricated her story. It's not a big deal. I kind of fall into that category. I think she did kind of fabricate her story to... I think she might have been in fear a little bit. She was close to it, but I don't think that she knew. I think she knows she wasn't in any real danger, but kind of fabricated the story to get, attention online. And the Ted Cruz almost got me murdered thing was silly. She shouldn't have tweeted that, but what can you do? But Ben Shapiro goes even further, and he lies himself while he says the media is lying. And I'll go ahead and show you this. Then we'll cover TYT in a minute.
Here's Newsweek. Ocasio-Cortez said rioters actually entered her office, forcing her to take refuge inside her bathroom after her legislative director, Geraldo Bonilla Chavez, told her to hide, run, and hide. As members of the mob banged against the door, Ocasio-Cortez believed this was the moment where I thought everything was over. Okay, so the media immediately spin up AOC's story. Where she didn't lie. Again, AOC's original statement may be an out of proportion emotional response to the events that were actually happening immediately surrounding her. But that's not a lie, right? It doesn't make it a lie. The media immediately begins spinning this up. The media immediately begins spinning this into Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was in her office. The rioters were right outside her office. They're trying to bang down the doors. Now, here's the thing. Why was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's story leading the news for several days here? And there were several Washington Post editorials about how brave she was and how wondrous she was. Why was she leading the news? Of all the people who had relevant stories to tell on January 6th, she is like somewhere near the bottom of the list because, again, she was not in the Capitol building itself. There were legislators who were in the Capitol building itself. If you were looking for personal harrowing experiences, presumably you would start with them. Just to be completely objective and fair, you would start with the people who are in the most immediate physical danger, and then you would move on down the list, right? But that's not the way that the media treated this. And the media treated this way because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is willing to say completely unhinged things, not about her own personal experiences per se, but she's willing to say unhinged things about other people, right? So she will just throw out implications like Ted Cruz wanted to murder me.
So as we all know, AOC never said Ted Cruz wanted to murder me. So this is Ben Shapiro doing the exact same thing AOC is doing. She's just trying to get some more light on her story and try to just, boost the attention to it and just make her seem like she was in an intense situation when she wasn't really. So Ben Shapiro's doing the same thing right here. It's obvious she tweeted, "Ted Cruz almost got me murdered," not "Ted Cruz wanted to murder me." It's a big difference, especially when you're preaching it to your, couple 100,000 of viewers.
Or, like, Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are just like the person who sexually assaulted me. And the media lap this crap up. The media want to make that the number one story. They love the implication.
Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are just like the person who sexually assaulted me. The fuck?
Right, so they don't fact check where she was at the time. That's not important. What is important to the media is the stuff that is not fact checkable, meaning her implication, which is that all Republicans are incipient murderers who wanted her personally killed and or are like rapists who want their victims to just forgive and forget. Right, that's the part that the media loves. That's why the media spun it up. If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had just described her circumstance and said, listen, I was in the Cannon House office building. Right, it's located about 0.3 miles away. It's like a 6-minute walk. There's some Capitol tunnels, but those were protected by cops. The building wasn't breached at any point, but I was in fear because I know that I'm really famous and I know a lot of people send me death threats and it freaks me out. And so when that happened, I went and I hid in Katie Porter's office and listen, I was scared. Do you think that would have made the same headlines? Of course it wouldn't have made the same headlines. The reason it became a headline is because she said she was a sexual assault survivor. And therefore, the people who were not on her political side of the aisle that she dislikes are just like the person who sexually assaulted her.
So call me crazy, but the part of the live stream where she talks about her sexual assault and all that, that's irrelevant to the later part of the live stream where she discusses where she thinks she was in danger because she heard someone barge into the bathroom yelling, "Where is she?" That's irrelevant. So Ben Shapiro keeps bringing that up like he's got a point there, but he doesn't. It's just that has nothing to do with the main story.
Right? That's why it made headlines. That's why you got the bravery of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez routine from the media. That's the reason, not because of the actual circumstances that surrounded her. And this is why you have a piece from thelily.com saying, in Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, these survivors found a voice. I felt with her the deeply vulnerable pain of telling someone. Right? This was also linked by the Washington Post. Ocasio-Cortez's explicit language around trauma may help facilitate other women's healing, experts added. And so it was all the ancillary stuff that AOC said, which really, truly was, I believe, immoral. I don't think that comparing fellow Congress people to rapists is a useful enterprise. I don't think suggesting that Ted Cruz wants you dead is a useful enterprise.
So here he goes again saying Ted Cruz wants you dead. That's not what she said. She said Ted Cruz almost got me murdered. Big difference. And then he brings up an article saying that AOC talking about her surviving a sexual assault made me feel more okay about coming out about it. And he says something else about another person who says that, it made it a little easier for me to come forward. You were conflating the two things that happened. She's talking about sexual assault, which a lot of women are sexually assaulted and they are afraid to come forward and discuss what happened to them. It's a fucked up world out there. And then later on, there's a long live stream. She talks about a different instance. Ben Shapiro was conflating the two things, acting like AOC was calling Ted Cruz a rapist. The fuck is wrong with you, Ben?
But the media love that kind of stuff, right? That is the reason why her account became the account. Okay, so over the course of last night, a bunch of people pointed out, by the way, she wasn't in the Capitol building. And some people went further and said, and that means that she was exaggerating what she was saying. She was exaggerating her experiences. Again, she could have legitimately felt what she was feeling. Doesn't mean the feeling was totally justified, but she could certainly have felt that. I'm not doubting the veracity of her feelings at the time. And her account is accurate so far as I can tell. It's somewhat misleading in that if you are reacting as though there are Capitol rioters directly at your door and the closest they are is 0.3 of a mile away and you are protected by several layers of police, it's not quite the same thing. Right? And you can see why people would draw that conclusion. Like the entire media drew the conclusion that she was actually in the middle of sort of the most dangerous area here from her description. So here's what happens. This starts to trend, right? On Twitter, the hashtag Alexandra Ocasio-Smollett starts to trend, as in Jussie Smollett, right? Jussie Smollett, the actor who described how he was lynched with the noose in the streets of Chicago by a couple of MAGA hat guys, and it turns out to be complete nonsense. Now, that's an exaggeration in and of itself, right? I mean, she's not Jussie Smollett. She didn't claim that the rioters had busted in there, right? She describes her feelings throughout the ordeal, and you can think that those feelings are unjustified. I hear that, but her feelings are her feelings. It doesn't mean she lied. I keep saying that over and over because I want to be very clear about what is true and what is false, unlike the fact checkers we're going to get to in just one second.
So I just let his last few statements play out there just so you can get the full context. I didn't want to cut him off. I always feel weird editing these videos because I want to, keep the video short and concise and to the point, but I don't want to cut out any context. But so it's kind of nice that he said that she wasn't lying and that the AOC Smollett thing is a little overblown, which I don't like Jussie Smollett. I think he should be in jail. He obviously lied. It's easily provable. It's really fucked up what he did. He should be in jail. But AOC, I don't think she did. I think that the thing that she really did wrong was saying that AOC, or that Ted Cruz almost got me murdered. No, he didn't. He was wrong in supporting the false election claims from Donald Trump and really pushing them and, preaching to the thousands of people who were at his rally saying that, it was false. But AOC kind of conflated the story because she was saying that he busted in. Where is she? I'm pretty sure the Capitol Police guy was probably just knocking on the door like, AOC, where you at? He's probably just the guy trying to find her, and she probably overblew the story. But I don't think that she lied and that was major. I think she was just trying to bring a little bit of attention to herself, and I don't think AOC is really capable of being a leader for progressives. I think that she's a good ally for progressives, of course. I think she'll vote right on the issues, but I don't think that you can count on her to really lead the charge and really fight against Nancy Pelosi and all of the top liberal Democrats that we've got. But let's go ahead and go over to TYT and see how they cover it.
Hundreds of thousands of Americans have died from coronavirus, as tens of millions of people are struggling with no work, no livelihood, and no support from the federal government. Candace Owens has decided to focus on what really matters to her and other right-wingers, questioning AOC and the statements that she's made about what she experienced in the Capitol while the riots were taking place on January 6th.
So I know there's a pandemic and all, but there are other news stories to cover. But I'm just going to say Candace Owens is an absolute moron. You know, shouldn't take anything she says seriously. But the TYT people are doing that. They're making a whole segment on her while there's a pandemic going on.
Now, this is an infuriating and common thing that you'll see on social media by right-wingers and people who are purportedly leftist, but I question that.
Hey, I'm a leftist.
And Candace Owens said this: on a day in which Alexandria Ocasio-Smollett is trending, please never forget the time that AOC staged a photo shoot dressed in all white at a park or a parking lot to spread lies about immigrant children in cages. Faking her own attempted murder was the next logical step. So she embedded the pictures that she was talking about, but someone who was actually present when those pictures were taken, Walter Schaub, who was also the former director of the Office of Government Ethics, chimed in and said this: "This is a lie, Candace Owens." Oh wow, what a shocker, she's a liar. "I was there in Tornillo and saw AOC with my own eyes. Maria Teresa was there too, as were many others who opposed child torture. I paid through the nose for the last minute ticket to be there." And then he mentions other people who were there with him who can vouch for the authenticity of AOC when she was distraught watching children locked up in cages, which, by the way, several of those children ended up dying in those cages. You know, so I feel like anyone with any empathy would be distraught by that. So it's just I don't know like what motivates people to be this insanely cruel, but this is what we're dealing with. And this was the same video, by the way, where AOC disclosed that she was a survivor of sexual assault. And the takeaway for these people like Candace Owens is to dismiss her, demonize her, and question her lived experience.
She says that Candace Owens questions AOC's lived experience. Well, when you're kind of an online political person and you're kind of making up stories that kind of make yourself seem cool and get attention on you, yeah, the other side is going to question your so-called lived experience, because AOC definitely exaggerated the story. She said Ted Cruz almost got me murdered when you look at the facts, she was not in danger. It was a Capitol police officer knocking on the door. There was more Capitol police outside. The actual attack was going on across the street.
Okay, so Candace Owens used to be a liberal Democrat and changed overnight, I'm sure coincidentally, when she started getting paid by right-wing organizations. And she's questioning people's authenticity. Come on. But look, on the other hand, you should know people are paid to lie to you. And so that's when you see Candace doing that, it's not a mistake, it's not an accident. That's literally what she gets paid to do, is to lie about progressives, lie about everything you can. Now, luckily, it really doesn't work much. All it does is it helps other white right-wingers feel good about themselves. Oh, they would say things like, we got a black to say it, so it's okay.
Yeah, I hear that from Republican voters all the time. We got a black to say it, so it's okay. The way TYT sometimes phrases things regarding race is just, in the political parties, is just dumb. Listen, there's some dumb leftists. There's like a 15% dumb leftists. I'm gonna say 25% dumb right wingers, and then there's sensible people. So TYT sometimes they drive me insane with this stuff.
Are they even friends with Candace? Oh my God! If Candace said, "Hey, you know what? Maybe Black lives do matter. Maybe we shouldn't like abuse or kill unarmed Black people like people in my family," they'd turn on her in a second. And by the way, she'd also be fired from those organizations, and then she'd have no money at all, and then she'd cry and cry and cry. So she's literally a professional liar. And in terms of the so-called left that's going, joining this AOC Smollett and all that nonsense that originates from the right wing. Okay, fine, whatever. Look, if you want to say like Tucker Carlson's my new best friend, and I think that AOC is my new enemy, okay, you do you, right? Everybody's got an opinion. But by the way, if you actually want to hold anyone accountable, including AOC, including members of the squad, etc., well, you just ruined it for anyone who actually does want to hold them accountable. Because now, if they don't, for example, I talked to Ryan Grimm the other day. And it looks like the Progressive Caucus is not considering bringing up Medicare for all for a floor vote for the entirety of the 2 years of this term. I think that's outrageous. We should definitely demand a floor vote. And there is a right time for it. And Ryan and I talked it through. We explained the right strategy. But progressives, it looks like, are not going to do that. That would be the time to put pressure on them. But now, if anybody puts pressure on AOC or anyone else, they're gonna say, "Oh, you guys are with the lunatics."
So if you're a leftist who criticize AOC here, and then you criticize her in the future, that your criticisms are invalid for some reason, I don't get it. It seems like you should just criticize her again. I don't see how, just because you've brought up, something that she's exaggerated in the past, that you can't continue to criticize her. So I really don't get this at all. It makes no sense to me. It seems like TYT just defending AOC because she's a progressive who's sort of got to her position through their show and through Justice Democrats. So definitely biased in this situation.
Thanks a lot. Way to ruin every strategy there ever was on the left.
So there you have it. Got the craziness on the right, the craziness on the left, which I like TYT a lot of the times, but I think they're kind of goofy on some stuff. Ben Shapiro, I wish him well. Hope he has a good, happy life, but I believe he's wrong on most things he talks about. But thanks for watching the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and all that stuff, and I'll see you in the future.